So in this fight, Volk was very aggressive with his right hand early on. He was much more willing to open up with it, and most of the time, it was a naked right hand. Sometimes it came behind a setup, but the point here is that he committed to it many times in this fight. And very quickly, Diego Lopes goes to a 5-3 counter, which is just a right uppercut and left hook combo. But he was largely unsuccessful with this option because Volk was able to jam up the distance for Lopes to accurately land the punch. But another thing Volk did almost immediately as well is fire another right hand behind it. This was a great option because Lopes would end his combo with a left hook, and that opens up an angle for another right hand to come over the top and land clean. And both of the right hands were hard right hands because he was able to generate his weight behind each punch. Watch how he fires the initial right hand where he shifts his weight back to his back foot in order to throw a second right hand. Usually people throw a left hook or an uppercut after a right hand, but Volk just used the same motion and just made sure he was first and last in the exchange. There were times where he actually did follow up with a left hook and it stunned Lopes a couple of times. One bad thing that happened in this fight was Volk's exits. It's the biggest weakness in his game. He gets knocked down against Max Holloway because of it, Topuria knocked him out because of it, and it was the same thing in this fight. The way he defended Lopez's right hand in this fight was very typical in terms of exiting with no proper hand positioning and his chin being high up in the air. So when Lopes decided to finally step in and commit to his right hand after Volk missed his jab, he got knocked down. But Volk is a very experienced and smart fighter and one of the few fighters that can actually adjust on the fly. This is what it means to have championship IQ, recognizing the mistake in fight speed and immediately correcting it. So when Lopes tried to initiate with his right hand again, the first thing Volk did was just a simple left block. Nice and effective, it gets the job done. The second thing Volk did, which he was doing for the majority of the fight, but he emphasized it more later on in the fight, was to just move to your right. It's very simple. You don't want to get hit with his right hand, then move to the opposite way of it. The third thing was the cross punch counter, meaning when Lopes would throw his right hand, Volk would pull counter it with his own right hand. But this was still a risky option considering he would still be in the same position that got him in trouble in the first place. So the main thing that he decided to do is walk Diego Lopes into like a ducking overhand. And the idea is that Diego Lopes doesn't move his head when he punches, and naturally, when you throw an overhand, your head is going to be off the center line. And it was working. It was working so much to the point where Diego Lopes decides to make a beautiful adjustment, and what he did was he decided to change the right hand that he was throwing into an uppercut. So instead of him throwing, let's say, a 1-2, it would be a 1-5. And the idea behind that is that if Volk throws his ducking overhand, he's gonna run into the uppercut. And in round 4, Lopes won the round because he was able to hurt Volk to the eye with this adjustment. So what I wanted more than anything while watching the film was for Volk to change the ducking overhand into a pivot check hook. So meaning he would pivot to his left and fire a check hook. Doing this will allow him to do 3 things: avoid the uppercut, attack on the side that Lopes cannot defend on, and avoid any other follow-up shot behind it. And especially with the way that he was sticking and moving side to side, I thought that would have been a viable solution. But this adjustment from Lopes also didn't have a ton of success. Yes, it won him a round, but it didn't produce sustaining results during the fight. It was more of like a home run type of adjustment. So something else he did was to try to follow up with a left hook behind it, but Volk was one step ahead this time with his high guard, effectively not allowing anything to land clean. Lopes tried to catch Volk with a naked check hook many times, but Volk was able to defend it very well. Something that I criticized Volk for in his last fight was just standing too tall and not dropping down, and that's what he did in this fight. When he dropped down, he was either able to be in position to land that same ducking overhand that he was throwing on the back foot all night, or he can initiate a body lock and stop Lopez's offense from doing anything. Eventually, Volk was able to see it coming, and he was catching the left hook off of the right block and firing a right hand on the same side. Textbook catch and shoot in boxing, and it was executed perfectly. Calf kicks are a staple in Volk's game, and he threw a good amount of them. He throws both left and right calf kicks. He throws the left one a little more though. However, his right calf kicks in this fight had potential to be a disaster because Diego Lopes was finding windows to sneak his right hand down the pipe. And you already know, Volk gets his calf kicks countered a lot, but one thing that Volk did that was actually pretty damn slick was he faked the right calf kick. So instead of committing to it, he'll step forward with it like he's motioning to kick, but that's just a decoy for him to land a shifting right hook. So he switches stances to land a lead right hook. This caught Diego Lopes off guard many times, and it was just a very creative and advanced technique. You don't see too many people do this, but I appreciate uncommon techniques like this because it shows the essence of MMA. As the fight went on, Lopez started to struggle tremendously because he was the advancing party, but he had a very anticipatory approach. He didn't initiate too often, and he was very focused on taking away Volk's right hand, but he didn't do a good job particularly taking away Volk's jab. He got hit with a lot of jabs in this fight, and I thought something that Lopez should have done more is jab with Volk, because in exchanges like this where if Volk steps in with his jab and Lopez catches it and fires his jab at the same time, Volk would get the worst of it because he's the one coming forward. Or even executing like a check hook counter where Volk throws his jab, but because his right hand isn't always protecting his chin, I thought Lopez would have had more success timing a check hook in an exchange like this rather than fishing for it out in space. Ironically, I thought Lopez didn't use his jab enough. Everything was just a singular jab, and if you look at the way that Volk defended these jabs, he was just parrying them. So firstly, following up with multiple jabs would have been a smart idea to put pressure on Volk's right parry, but another thing that he should have done was feint the jab and throw a 3-2 combo down the pipe. Considering how much Volk was affected when Lopez landed his right hand, I thought this tactic would have allowed Lopez to disguise his right hand better, and who knows what could have happened. Overall, I thought his approach when initiating and anticipating was too rudimentary. It wasn't as creative and versatile as it needed to be against a fighter like Alexander Volkanovski. Diego Lopez is not far off from competing for the belt again, but he does need to do two things in my opinion. Firstly, he needs to add some sort of other element to his MMA skill set. His boxing is good, but it feels like it's too one-dimensional. Obviously, everyone has a preference, everyone has a base that caters to their identity as a fighter, but that doesn't mean you can't do other things. If you're known for your boxing, that doesn't mean you should only box. He can add other tools or techniques that can make his boxing easier. That's the approach that he needs to make. This also goes for defense as well. He was too stuck on the center line. You can't just walk into punches. That's not a championship habit whatsoever. And this leads me into the next thing, which is his championship IQ. Lopez straight up got checkmated in the chess match in this fight. Volk just had way more answers than Lopez because he's a more versatile fighter. If one thing isn't working, you can't expect to keep going to it. You have to change your approach. You have to effectively take away certain things from your opponent in order to beat a great fighter on a stage like this. Like, he has everything else. He has the natural talent. He's quick and powerful. Anytime he landed something significant, you can tell that it affected Volk. He has a grittiness to him to where, if he does get checkmated, he has the mental ability to throw the kitchen sink. Like, he was clapping and telling Volk to come at him in round 5. That shows the type of fighter that he is. He doesn't mind a rock'em sock'em type of fight, but he does need to think more strategically in his fights. He loads up on damn near every punch, and it's like you don't need to hit a home run every single time. Championship fights are a marathon, not a sprint, and he can certainly get better to where he can like develop a 2.0 version of himself. As for Volk, his victory made me think of two things. 1. Him winning the belt is everything that combat sports is. You start out as this no-named fighter that's climbing the ranks, you beat tough opponents to earn a shot at the belt, you win the belt, you defended it multiple times against the top of your division, and this is where people are usually on the hype train. They're with you, and everything seems great, until you lose devastatingly one time, and the narrative starts spinning. Oh, he's washed. Oh, he doesn't have it anymore. He's 35 and the record for fighters competing 35 or over is X. You start approaching a dark place immediately after being on top of the world, and it can mess with the fighter's mind like crazy. But for him to battle all of that and come back and beat a tough opponent just shows the type of resilience that he has always had as a fighter. 2. Despite being a dominant champion, so dominant to the point where people are considering him as the featherweight GOAT, his improvement and progression from the Topuria fight was sensational. A lot of mistakes that he made against Topuria, he cleaned them up in this fight. In that fight, he was standing too tall, he wasn't initiating with his power strikes, he wasn't attacking off the back foot, he was leaning back, he favored that cross-block type of defense, and it backfired on him. But in this fight, like I mentioned earlier, he did make the same mistake, but he made sure that he wasn't going to make the same mistake again, making sure he wasn't going to lose and come up short the same way he did last time. At 35, being arguably the featherweight GOAT, he was able to get better and learn from what he did wrong. And it just goes to show that in fighting, there's never an ending. You see guys come back in the last round of a fight. You see guys that are 40 plus making title runs and even winning the belt. You see guys that started out their career losing but then they end up being the champion, and it just shows that you can always get better. That's the beauty of combat sports. I remember training martial arts as a young kid, and I was telling my instructor that I felt like I've learned everything that I needed to learn, and he told me that in this game you can never know enough, and he was right. In the highest stage of MMA, an all-time great was quite literally able to come back better than he was before. Special fighter that he is, man. Can't wait to see how much he has left in his career.